There will be 8 contenders on the stage tonight here in Milwaukee. One person who won't be here is Donald J. Trump. But kind of, even though he's not here, he really will be here. He'll also be appearing on X, as we must now call Twitter, with a big sit-down interview with Donald J. Trump. And I'm joined by senior advisor to Donald Trump, Jason Miller. Jason, I get why he's not here. We don't need to argue about that. He's 45 points ahead against the other Republican candidates. There's the Reagan precedent going back 40 years. There's no need for him to be here. But isn't it a bit mean to do a big interview with Tucker Carlson and for that to play on air at the same time as these 8 men and women are on the stage here in Milwaukee? It's a bit mean, isn't it?
I would say it's a bit smart to go and completely dominate the news cycle, have everybody focused on you and not on the other folks who might be at 1, 2, maybe even 3% in the polls. That's a little bit of the genius of President Trump, is he knows how to work a news cycle, how to dominate the media flow, probably greater than any politician in history outside of yourself and your political days.
He is superb at this, but the point I'm trying to make is, isn't the Republican Party, isn't the conservative movement in America about more than just Donald Trump?
Well, President Trump has remade the Republican Party really in his image. And in fact, the way that he's changed politics in America is so radical, in a sense, that even Joe Biden has left a lot of his policies in place on trade and other populist type measures. But what a lot of folks in the UK might not realize is that when you said President Trump is ahead by 45, it's maybe a little more like 46 points. Certain parts of the country, it's at 60% that he leads by. With him leading. He's also leading in the general election against Joe Biden. So President Trump's ready to take the fight to Joe Biden and start that general election matchup, which will be the rematch of 2020. He wants to get to that.
But are we saying, it's quite interesting this, because 1 or 2 of the big Trump supporters say, hey, you know, tonight's debate's irrelevant. Yet you're all here. Why are you here?
Well, we're never going to miss an opportunity to talk about the president and hype him up.
All right.
And a lot of folks who are watching don't see this on the ground. There's a greater level of support here on the ground with supporters and people with signs and surrogates and allies that are out working on behalf of President Trump than all of the other campaigns combined.
Are these 8 people that I'm going to watch and you're going to watch debate this evening, are they valueless?
I wouldn't say that. In fact, I'd say that there are several folks who are running against President Trump who could be a part of his administration in the next point. And President Trump isn't shy about his campaigning style. In fact, as we look to the number 2 candidate in the race, well, I say currently number 2 because he's dropping like a rock in the polls and other folks are moving ahead, but Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida.
You guys really do not like Ron DeSantis.
Well, I wouldn't say, I did bring, so folks can see, we do have a bingo card and President Trump calls him Ron DeSanctimonious. So we have a bingo card here for this evening. So as you're watching it, has a number of his verbal clutches, like when he says end of the day and woke. A couple things, folks is another word. Actually, I just used it, so I guess I can't knock him on that. But words like narratives. But we also have some fun things in here, like Ron plagiarizes Trump. He pronounces his name differently. Sometimes he says DeSantis. Somebody says DeSantis.
You're launching a war against this bloke. I mean, he's the governor of Florida. I mean, Jason, I know that Trump sees what DeSantis has done as disloyalty. I understand that. I've been in political leadership at a lower level, but I have myself, and I understand that sometimes people who you've helped along suddenly turn against you, or that's how you feel. But, I mean, he is the governor of Florida. He did win by 20 points. Is this guy not an asset to the conservative movement?
Well, I think Ron DeSantis believed too much of his headlines after his re-election win in 2022, and he thought his standing nationally was much better than it actually is. I think if you look back, President Trump really was the reason Ron DeSantis was elected in 2018, and President Trump sees as a big sign of disloyalty the DeSantis.
Yeah, well, I can see that.
But here's the fact of it is that President Trump could be spending that time going after Joe Biden right now, going after his record on inflation, that disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, all the other terrible things Biden's done with the southern border, but instead he has this distraction that you could say from folks who are 46 points behind when it comes to Ron DeSantis. And Ron, at this point, if his numbers keep going down, why is he even staying in the race?
Is it possible that on the platform tonight we get some fresh injections of ideas into the conservative movement? See, to me, I think this debate is important, and I think there are 1 or 2 candidates, one I can think of in particular, who's very much a new kid on the block, who is perhaps putting forward some quite refreshing ideas for the Conservative movement and where it goes in the next decades to come. That surely matters.
Oh, it does. And Vivek Ramaswamy, who I think you're going to possibly have on the show this week.
He's coming on tomorrow.
He's coming on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Very impressive. I've liked a lot of what I see from Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he's someone that could be a good ally as we move into the future. I'm also impressed by Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina. He's someone who I've known for over a decade and really have a very high opinion of. And I think there are, again, people who've worked with President Trump in the past or even in the future. But when you talk about the policy ideas, I'm glad you get in this because you're the one who really reset the global debate about globalism, so to speak. All of the ideas that you see tonight are essentially going to be echoes or copycats of President Trump's ideas. So when we talk about getting the economy in the U.S. back to a good place, well, that's what President Trump had. You talk about sealing the border. Yeah. That's what President Trump... They're largely just going to be mimics.
We might get some new stuff. You never know. We might get some new stuff, and we should be open-minded about that, surely.
I should hope so. I should hope that we see some new things and we get some... But we haven't seen it so far, and I think that's one of the things that's really been a disappointment from the field, is that a number of the people who are on stage, there's no value proposition to why they're running. What is it that you look at? There's a gentleman named Ada Hutchinson, who's a former governor of Arkansas. Yeah. He's at 0.5%. But why is he running
Jason,
for president?
There are some people running who just want to tear chunks out of Trump. I get that. I understand that, and that's a very good reason for him not to be here, given he's so far. I get all of that. I buy that. I really do buy that. But I have to say, Jason, I've no idea what's been said to Tucker Carlson. What sort of bombshells are we going to get at 9 p.m. Eastern Time this evening?
I think you're going to see President Trump really start to make the pivot toward the general election with some of his commentary about President Biden and Vice President Harris. He has some pretty tough words. President Trump does not pull punches. He goes very, very strongly. I think there are also a couple of fun questions that are there. I think we might get some long-awaited answers to extraterrestrial life. I'm not going to spoil anything.
Well,
you got to tune into X or Twitter.
UFO guys, please tune in later.
Tune in later. So there are a couple of fun things, but no, there's a very serious policy discussion about where America has gotten off track, what we have to do to get back. And the great thing is Tucker Carlson's he's a fabulous interviewer. The way he's able to kind of peel back the layers of the onion and get to the issue, and it was great to see.
He's a clever guy. Final thought, Jason, as senior advisor. And of course, Donald Trump sometimes will take your advice, and other times, I've no doubt he'll tell you a fortune because that's the way he is with people. Do you think that the pick for vice presidential running mate is important?
Yes, but I think it's going to have a different construct than it was in 2016. You can look back to 2016 and say that then Governor Mike Pence, who was the governor of Indiana and then became the vice president, in a sense he filled a certain need, a certain strategic need.
And it worked.
And it worked. He won 306 electoral votes. It was a fantastic win. I think President Trump will look at it a little bit differently for 2024, and he's going to go to someone who he thinks can be essentially the ideological flag bearer that can maybe continue on after President Trump is in office, someone who he gets along with. Okay. I would not look at this as, say, checking a box of some characteristic or demographic. Okay. I think it's going to be someone that he looks and says, this person gets me, this person gets the populist movement, and if this person is ready to ascend to the presidency at a moment's notice, it's going to be much more of that and kind of his gut feel as opposed to a calculation.
One or two potential clues there from Jason Miller. Jason, thank you for coming back on the program.